Hey, this is Jonathan Gilliam, and I'm about to start the show, but I just want to make sure first that you know about my best-selling book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival. And if you've gotten it already and read it and applied it, why not go ahead and order another one and give it to somebody in your life that matters and that needs to know about who, why, where, when, and how an attack could happen. This book, as you know, if you've read it already, helps you understand how attackers pick their targets, the systematic way that they go about discovering vulnerabilities and the best avenue of approach, where the best place is to carry out an attack, and when that area is most vulnerable. Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival. It will change the way you see everything. And by everything, I mean everything. You won't watch the news and look at politics or crime that's happening the same again after you read this and understand how attackers think. Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival. Go get it wherever books are sold, and the 2 workbooks that go with it. And for the children, The Adventures of Team Little Bigs, a parent's book for children. Go check it out as well. And let's start the show.
The truth has arrived.
My name is Jonathan Gilliam, and this is The Experts. And welcome to the show. Happy Friday. You made it through another week. And so today I wanted to talk about something that, I'm seeing this over and over again. Well, there's a couple things I want to talk about, but first and foremost, Governor Cuomo, it's no secret the guy's a dirtbag, okay? It's no secret that people like Nancy Pelosi, I would say Joe Biden, but I don't even think he's hardly there, but definitely most of the people that at the top of the Democrat Party, the way that they run things, and this includes activists, the big money donors, all the people who are just on Twitter and Instagram and all these different places that run these things in Silicon Valley, and the trolls that are on there. The one commonality that they have amongst all of them is the fact that the way they see that things should be done in the United States and really around the world is very similar to the way a megalomaniac or a fascist would see things. Now, they are always accusing the people on the right of being fascist. They've been saying that for a long time. If you're white and you have an opinion about something, you're obviously a neo-Nazi, fascist, racist person. That's the way that they like to categorize everybody. They always accuse the right of trying to make everybody do what they want and use fascist tactics or dictatorial type of tactics. They always accuse the right of doing everything that the left actually does. And you can clearly see that if you look at the way the left approaches I wouldn't say the problem, but the way that they approach the goal that they have versus the way the right approaches their goal, right? So the right is mainly concerned with, and I'm not talking about the establishment politicians, just leave them completely on the right, leave them completely out of this, because there's only one thing they're in it for: careerism and power. That's it. Well, that's 2 things, but that's what they're in it for. So when I say the right, I'm talking about, and I'm not talking about extreme weirdos. I put people in the QAnon faction. If you are listening to this and you're into QAnon, I don't want to call you a weirdo, but you're kind of a weirdo, okay? You need to, and I love you, and I know your heart's in the right place for the majority of these people, but you need to let all this stuff go and realize that, just like I've told people over and over again, when it comes to following preachers who preach a false gospel, or they are trying to constantly predict the future based on the Bible, get away from those people. Okay, they're toxic. They don't do anything. It's just a bunch of users trying to make themselves feel important and getting either all spooky or just playing games. Get away from them. Same thing with QAnon. But the way the right, and I'm talking about just people who want to be free and who don't believe in a fast, massive changes, who believes that the system was built correctly. the way you all approach issues is to hire or elect people to go to Washington, D.C. and handle it for you so that you can go out, work, raise your family if you have one, and enjoy your life and enjoy your freedoms. You're not people who go around shooting and killing with guns that you legally own. You're not somebody who goes around and uses racist statements and passes not even judgment, just dislike and outwardly nasty to people. There are people like that are conservative. There's people definitely like that are left. But the fact is, you're not organized. You most of the people on the right think that the elections are actually much more beneficial than they really are. They think, well, I'm going to elect this person because they're a handsome young man or a beautiful woman and they're very smart or they're very outspoken. Did you see the way they laid into the press? And so you hire them thinking that they're going to go and assimilate with all these other people and fight the good fight and that your freedoms are going to be secured because a politician is like the military, they serve in Congress or they serve in the Senate or they serve as governor and they're just going to have, they are leaders. That's all wrong. That virtually that doesn't exist at all. There are some leaders within politics, but by and large, none of them on the right assimilate into any type of force that stands for the Constitution. They're completely broken. They're all one-offers, like they want to be on TV the most. And for the people who have their heart in the right place, they're not approachable. It's not like you can just approach them, and it's not like there's 50 of them so they can all work together. It just doesn't exist. On the left, totally different. Very organized. Not just newly organized. They have been organized for, going on 100 years now to the point where they are right now. This isn't something that just occurred over the past 4 years because of Trump, because he was able to spark their madness. That's not the case. They've been moving just at a slower pace for almost 100 years. But they're organized, and the tactics that they use, the techniques that they carry out, and the procedures in which they function is all the equivalent of one massive fascist tumor. And it just spreads through the bloodstream of America and creates other tumors all around the nation. And the Republican establishment is like a worthless vaccine. You can inject all you want into the bloodstream of the United States. It doesn't do a damn thing because, like I said a minute ago, one person over here or 5 people over there isn't going to do anything. I know people in Illinois, people in New York, people in Arizona whose hearts are in the right place, who are hard workers for not just conservatism, but for the nation. They are warriors. They do care about it. But listen, I'm talking about one person over here, 5 over there. It's not going to change anything, unfortunately. The establishment in the Republican Party is worthless. It's worthless. Great vast majority of the time, they're not even looking at winning elections as much as they are running the elections so they can make money. And I've seen it firsthand. I've also seen people who do a great job in getting the right people elected. And we need more of that. But when we look at the left, it is basically, as I said on Twitter and on Facebook and Connexing, is that it's like the Democrat Party is like the birth canal for megalomaniacs and for fascism and for true racism. It's actually the left. And it's when I say it's the birth canal, it's the perfect form in which they are born. And that is why when you look at Republicans, or I wouldn't say conservatives, just people who get convicted of sexual assault or sexual harassment or any other crime that are from the Republican side of the House, it's typically a criminally minded person who is a narcissist and utilizes politics to feed their ego, and they're just out of control, nasty, horrible people. When you look at the Democrat Party and you look at somebody like Cuomo, or you look at somebody like Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan, or Phil Murphy in New Jersey, when you look at Nancy Pelosi, when you look at Chuck Schumer, You look at all of these Democrats, it's like a clone, and they have no concern for the well-being of the United States. They simply want their ideology pushed forward at any cost, at any price. It doesn't matter what it's going to do to the people of the United States. It doesn't matter if they got to raise taxes, manipulate people to make them think that there's more racism and white supremacy, and they don't care. It doesn't matter to them. It doesn't matter if every white male in the United States was rounded up, as long as they're not the ones being rounded up, because they're not going to be. But this type of fascist, dictatorial type of leadership is born in the Democrat Party. That's why you have people like Cuomo, the governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, and his just this predatorial mindset. And these people, not just women, but people who work for him and people who actually go and serve in the Democrat Party, and they're victims because of this, and they're surprised. Listen, you could not make, if you tried, a better atmosphere to breed this type of leftist, fascist megalomaniac. Now, this one girl, Annalise, I think is her name. She was one of the accusers that Cuomo allegedly touched, and was constantly touched her back and kissed her hand at different times. I don't know how much of this, if it went past that, but it was, according to her, constant harassment from the governor in the workplace. And yet this is what she tweets out. And this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Now, let me just make this caveat. I said this in social media. I stand with all these women who are accusing Governor Cuomo. I look at the totality of the circumstances and how, especially when you look at this versus Kavanaugh or even Trump, with all these accusations that they say are out there. None of them amounted to anything. And they're spread over this wide swath of time period, whereas when you look at how the Democrats work, that's what they do. They don't bring specific people from specific times. They'll always muster up some type of an accuser from way back when, and it's never somebody that's up and close and personal. Now, when we look at Cuomo, the difference here is the people that are coming forward separately. They're coming forward from recent history, and they all point out the same predatorial type of tactics that he uses. Right now, anybody that makes an accusation, I would say that I stand with them in their accusation, but the reality is I stand from a neutral stance. I'm not going to say that this person is guilty. I'm not going to say that they're absolutely a victim. But when you start to see a pattern arise, then you can start to put a little bit more weight without it, and that's called circumstantial evidence. You can start to put more weight towards the accusations. So but the thing is that I really want to get at here is that, having made that caveat, that yes, I do support these women and their right to make these accusations and their strength of coming forward, and I do support them in the fact that the circumstantial evidence is pretty damning against Cuomo. But Annalise, this is her tweet that she put out March 18th. She says, "Yes, I have a framed photo. Yes, I have posted support for the governor." She's talking about Cuomo. "I'm proud of having worked there and having survived. He's easier to tolerate when he's not your boss." See, this is what I'm talking about. I looked, and it goes on. Let me finish it. It says, "Also, not until days ago did it cross my mind that I could or should speak up without fear of retaliation." This is a woman who clearly is a liberal and is clearly brainwashed by the left And that's the way megalomaniacs and fascists work. They make you think if you say anything, it's going to destroy your career. That's the way Weinstein was. That's the way a lot of these people are, especially on the left. It's very common on the left because of the way that they envision leadership, because of the way they envision a class system in the United States. The people on the right don't look at class systems. The people on the left are the ones who like to put people in classes and in categories based on race, based on sex, based on gender. You don't see the right trying to force everyone to recognize them by their gender or sexuality or their race. That's the left that does that. So this woman, in her tweet, this is after coming out about being sexually harassed by Cuomo, for some reason feels the need to make this this tweet saying that she's had a photo with him, she supported him before, she's proud to have worked around there and survived, and I don't think she's talking about having survived him. I think she's talking about have worked in a high stress environment in the executive branch of the state government and survived it, and then saying that that Cuomo is easier to tolerate when he's not your boss. See, that is not helping her cause at all in her accusations. And quite frankly, it sounds exactly like somebody who is a liberal and wants to say she's caught in that type of, like, these people who are the people who go around canceling everybody, and then when it's time for them to get canceled, then they're a victim, like the weirdo editor who just got pushed out from Teen Vogue, which is a leftist, vile, satanic magazine that you should never let your children read. And she got booted out because some stuff that she was saying about Asians and their eyes back when she was, I don't know, like 16 years old. But listen, cancel culture came and got her, and she's the one who was always, standing up for canceling everybody else. So now she gets canceled, and all of a sudden she becomes a victim. Well, when I look at this woman, Annalise, I do believe she was a victim, but I believe that, looking at her words right here, she's so sucked into the being a leftist that she can't even just say this guy's a dirtbag, and maybe perhaps the way that the leadership is, because she goes on to talk about how everybody in this place was harassing. There were men who were harassed and men who were harassers and women and vice versa, because of the way that the atmosphere is in Albany, where the state capitol is there in New York. So she says that, but at the same time, she has to put this tweet out, making it sound as though, listen, the governor, he's easy to tolerate when he's not your boss. I mean, so your environment's toxic, but it's also harassing, but yet you're trying to make it sound like he's not a bad guy when he's not your boss. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading this wrong, but she's not the only one. So there's another accuser. There's been, I guess, 8 so far. The last one doesn't really sound much like, it just sounded like he was making eye contact with her, and it made her feel unpleasant. I don't know, but and I'm not belittling any of these by any means at all whatsoever. But Lindsay Boylan, I think is how you say her name, she's another one who is clearly harassed. Okay, she was clearly harassed by Cuomo when she was working for him, but she's also running for Manhattan Borough President. And I when I go on her page, for somebody who's a victim, the majority of the stuff that she's talking about is, it's all liberal stuff. It's all about her running for this or condemning that. And then there's some stuff about Cuomo in there. I've met, in my work in law enforcement, I've met real trafficking victims. I've met real assault and rape victims. I've met and talked to and interviewed people who were truly harassed. And the anger that boils up in these people it's all consuming. And again, I want to make this clear. I'm not condemning these women at all. But what I am seeing is a pattern of these megalomaniac and fascist dictatorial type of I don't want to use the word leaders, but they're in leadership positions in the Democrat Party that have done murderous, harassing things, killing these elderly people by almost purposely putting COVID people into the homes and then harassment like with Cuomo. And I'm seeing this pattern, but I'm also seeing a pattern with people from the left that are confronting these attackers, and it's almost like they're wrestling with themselves on the inside because they don't want to danger and injure the mothership, right? So they know somebody is bad in there, but they don't want to endanger the overall movement of the left. And you can see that this wrestling match is going on inside their brains because it's coming out in what they say and what they put in social media. And it's a tragedy. It reminds me of how a narcissist will affect a person and how people who are under the spell of a narcissist at first, it's a big lie, and they put on the show and they tell you everything that you want to hear, and they pull you in closer and closer, and then they start milking you for energy. At first, it's to get your attention. The fact that you're giving them attention makes them feel good. But then once, the allure wears off and a normal person starts to realize that this person is kind of manipulative and not that great, then they'll turn around and they'll start draining you of your energy by putting you down and really putting the pressure on you. That's the way a narcissist works. And over a period of time, the last nail in the coffin for a person who's in a relationship with a narcissist is that they will become somewhat addicted, or they feel like it's inescapable, like it's them. No, it's like it's them, not the narcissist that's the problem. They truly start to believe that they are the problem. And that's when the narcissist has them. And they can just toy with them. Whenever they need energy, they'll just toy with them, build them back up, and then break them back down. And that's what these people remind me of. It's as if they have been captured by the narcissistic, fascist, megalomaniac left, and they are just lockstep in with it, not looking at the bigger picture at what's actually happening. And in the case of some of these people who were deeply involved in politics, actually have the same characteristics and the same belief system in believing that the way that they're going to fix everything is through socialism. And they just have no clue. They're just too close to it. They can't, even though they're victims, they still can't see the reality of what they're involved with. And that is exactly the way a narcissist loves to trap their victims. And it's also the way, when you look through history, that megalomaniacs trap the people around them, where they end up, people like that work for Hitler. Not everybody, I haven't seen, at least in my lifetime. I mean, I guess the mob is kind of like this, where you have really a large number of people that, and you see this with conspiracies, where people that they will take part in a criminal activity thinking it's going to be a one-time affair, or because they didn't do that they didn't actually do it. Maybe they planned this, or they are involved in this from the outer atmosphere, that they believe that, they're not really involved, and they will compromise their values, and they will justify what they've done because they're not directly involved with it, right? That's what happened in Germany with the citizens of Germany. Even when they knew what was going on, it wasn't them. They weren't doing it themselves. So they justified what was happening because they wanted Germany to be powerful again. And you get a lot of people that, like in Germany, in Hitler's regime, that were close to Hitler, that I'm sure most of them are pretty bad people, but may have justified in their brains the terrible, evil things that they were doing because they were caught up in part of a power system, that they were part of the powerful elite. And so they do these things, and they don't even, I don't think that there's any way they couldn't realize it, but they justify it in their minds. And that's what I see with people on both sides of the aisle, quite frankly. But when it comes to the megalomaniac, this leftist type of dictatorial type of leadership, you see people who are involved in it, and especially in this case, who have been victimized by it, and yet they duel with themselves on the inside to just come out and say this entire Democrat Party is a bullshit scam, right? They just cannot come out and say that. They can't make themselves believe it. They can't sit back and say this whole thing about his or her pronouns is just, it's over the top weird. They just can't bring themselves to say it, that you got to go around. I was looking at this yesterday. I put a tweet out saying, the ridiculousness of this and how it's gotten where, and I'm just sitting back from the perspective of an analysis of, of normalcy, and not saying that somebody is weird, but the process that we've gone to make everything so difficult, where you have to walk lock and step this way or you're canceled, you're done, is unbelievable where we've gotten to. Captain America, one of the Captain America figures in Marvel Comics, is now going to be a gay guy. Like, that had to be, his sexuality had to be part of this story. And I don't know, working on trains or some superhero of trains, I guess, or something like that, subways. The whole thing is ridiculously stupid. And it's gotten to a point now, like, if you go in front of a judge, are you going to be wrong if you don't say, yes, homosexual, black, transgender honor? I need to make this statement, an objection, if I could. Is it going to be that bad? Do you no longer say, oh, I got a bit of a cough, I think I need to go to the heterosexual white male medical professional? Are we going to that thing where you fall down and you break your leg and you scream out, somebody call 911? I need a gender neutral medium trained medical official to come here and look at my injury. I mean, is that where we're going with this? This is how ridiculously stupid it's gotten. And by and large, when you talk to people on the left, they don't see that. They just don't see it. So, I've known this. I know you know it and you see it if you're not on the left. But now that I've been looking at, I'm an avid proponent of putting Andrew Cuomo in handcuffs and putting him in jail. I believe he should be charged with murder. After looking at all the things that have happened, I don't think this was negligent homicide about what happened with the nursing homes. I think, to be honest with you, I'm going to make this statement. I believe what Cuomo and the other Democrat governors did, putting these elderly people who were sick into these nursing homes, I believe it was premeditated murder to kill elderly people so that Trump would suffer. I know that people are going to say that sounds ridiculous. Listen, it doesn't make any sense. I've racked my brain trying to figure out why are they that stupid. And they haven't shown that stupidity anywhere else. The majority of things that they've done in the Democrat Party over the past 4 years, from the mayors to governors to school board members, all the way up to Congress and senators and judges, the main things they have done is not to keep the system smooth, to keep people safe. It has been, and also in media in Silicon Valley, it's to organize, along with activists, to organize to get Trump out of office. That was their main objective. And I think when we look at the totality of circumstances, it's clear that, one, the governors in these states were well organized. They did the exact same thing. And two, it was premeditated. And three, they knew people were going to die, and they did it knowing that it would up the COVID cases and therefore make the president at that point look like he was not doing a job. I think there's circumstantial evidence for that. Proving that, I don't know if it would be that hard, quite frankly, to tell you the truth. I think proving that would be a lot more, it would be a lot simpler than proving that there was voter fraud, because all that stuff that happened in the November election was computerized. I think this would be much easier to prove. But the point is, what I was getting at is that these people exist on the left, and they're made possible because of the entire ideology that the left believes in. The way it functions, the form that it takes, the way that they use the same type of tactics of ruling as communist leaders, fascist leaders in history. It's the exact same way. They're using the exact same thing. Get rid of books. Don't let people have guns. Suppress freedom of speech. Put people in categories. Divide the people. Make them angry. Don't fix things. Don't make things work better. Increase the wars that we're involved in. Blame people for crimes that crazy people do. The death rate in this country by murder is predominantly inner city blacks killing blacks. Don't report that. That's not what they would do. They're going to pin it on other people to make it look like it is a split, divided society. So I just think this proof is out there. It's just all over the place. It's going on constantly with the left. And the things that occur because of it are made possible because the left is predominantly the birth canal for megalomaniacs and fascists, regardless of what they say. It doesn't matter what they say, quite frankly. Now, the other thing I want to talk about real quick before I go, and I want you to have a great weekend, is this. I mean, whether you're on the left or the right, you have to realize that going through life and saying, oh, I read this or I watched a video, so it must be true. That's no way to go through life, right? You're going to be misled constantly. You would think people know this, but they don't know this. I've had people argue with me about this is true in the Bible or that's true in the Bible. I was discussing this with a guy that commented on one of my good friends' pages tonight about Barabbas. And he was saying that Barabbas, that scholars have said that Barabbas was actually named Jesus Barabbas, and so I mean the whole story of it was ridiculous. Some of these scholars are saying that it never occurred. Others are saying that Barabbas was Jesus and that other things occurred, but there's no historical account of the Jews releasing somebody on Passover. All these different things, saying that it was written a different way in certain texts that are ancient. And this is the way I explained it, and I think it's very important for you to realize. For one, okay, God's will is the most important thing for you in this world above anything else. It doesn't matter if you're dead broke and on the street, or if you're the richest person in the world. If you are not following God's will, your life is going to be destroyed, period. That's the main thing. With that being said, you should never follow anything or anyone blindly. God doesn't want you to follow him blindly. So you should do your research. You know, don't just say that the Bible says this. I mean, there's ancient texts that say that because you read it somewhere. You know, you should go through life when you're called to something, investigate it. Study all of it. Don't just study a little piece. Don't go on sound bites or memes. You actually have to study and do some research to learn about the Bible. You need to read the Bible in its entirety. And what happens when you do this, whether it's the Bible or anything else for that matter that you're looking into, you need to understand that through studying and researching and building up your ability to discern truth from fiction, what you're going to start to see is that that not just the truth, but lies also have a pattern. Liars have a pattern, and the way liars paint a picture, it after a while it starts to become very evident if you know what to look for. And what you should be looking for is the truth, and the truth is typically very simple. It's filled with common sense, and it's not mysterious. The truth when it's good and when it's what God wants you to understand and know, the truth, which God wants you to understand and know the truth is going to be something that is conceivable. But when you look at lies, quite often it's filled with ego from the person who's doing the lying based on themselves wanting to look like an expert, or based on an ideology that they want you to believe regardless of truth. They are just dead set on this narrative they want you to believe, this ideology they want you to believe. And when you look at the totality of the circumstances, the totality of what you've investigated and researched and read, you will start to see that the truth has a pattern and that the lies also have a pattern. And it makes it much easier to discern truth from fiction, truth from deception, truth from flat out lies or manipulation of information. You will start to be able to discern between the two and understand. Now, with that, what happens is that you develop a better understanding of God. You develop a better relationship with God and with yourself. And when you are faced with an issue that is unusual, when I say unusual, in your daily life, 365 days a year, there's going to be certain things that are typical and certain things that pop up every now and then, like maybe every 10 years or 5 years or maybe once in a lifetime. And when you're faced with these things, if you have made it a point and a priority in your life to follow God's will and to not just go on it blindly, but to actually do the research and study God and know him, when you see something that is emotional for that you're wanting to carry out because you're angry or because you're hurt versus what God wants you to do, you will be compelled to do what God wants you to do. But if you don't know God and if you're not walking down a path trying to seek out truth, you will inevitably be emotionally led, and that will always guide you to do things that get you in deeper trouble, or things that lead you to being a victim, or just don't ever bring any type of closure to something that may have occurred. And I know people who've done God's will. I know people who have failed God's will, and sitting back and watching people at times, I'm in awe of what I see for two reasons. One, because people make the right choice, and to see God's will work when they make that right choice it's an amazing experience to sit back and watch it occur. On the other hand, it's tragic. All the stuff I talked about in the very beginning is tragic to me, because I don't believe God's will is socialism or communism or globalism. I believe God's will was the formation of the United States under the founding fathers and the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, and the way events carried forward to where slavery ended, to where women were treated equal and people have equal justice under the law. That's what I believe God wanted and wants for us. And I can't look at the left and the Democrat Party and think that that's even remotely the way God would lead, because it's not. And I look at leadership the way I look at marriage. If you're dating somebody and you just don't see yourself as being capable of marriage with that person, you shouldn't be in a relationship with them over a period of time. And it's the same thing with a leader. If a leader does not have the characteristics of a godly person and a powerful person that's doing things effectively for the right reasons, they don't need to be a leader, period. So I was compelled to talk about that because as I see these victims come forward but wrestle with the fact that they're in the Democrat Party, and they fight whether or not how they're going to say this, and they're torn apart, and you can see it. They're not just torn apart because they were victimized. They're torn apart because I think they instinctually, they're just seeing that something is wrong here. Yet, some of them, not all of them. Others have no clue. They just don't understand the reality of the Constitution, how powerful freedom is, and they simply think, which the Democrats think, that people have to be told how to live, that they have to be told how to feel, how to speak, what they should like and what they should dislike. And they believe in fairness until they themselves come under the gun of judgment. And then it's not fair. You know, it's interesting in life. There's certain things that occur where you just know that the next thing that's going to happen makes sense, right? If you're outside and it's a spring day and you see clouds coming and there's thunder outside and you smell that smell of rain, you're not going to be surprised if all of a sudden it rains. But if you're out by the pool in the summertime and all of a sudden it starts snowing, you're going to be perplexed by that. It's not going to make sense to you. That's the same way Democrats are when they get canceled or when they get victimized by their own ideology. It doesn't make sense, and you see them wrestle inside because what they're starting to understand, if they're smart, is that they have been living a lie. I'm Jonathan Gilliam. This is The Experts. The truth has arrived. Peace, and I'm out of here. Have a great weekend, everybody.